This conference will now be recorded.
All right, I guess we better go ahead and get started. It's about 7 o'clock. If you would, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to be followed by a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. All right, we do have a quorum. All members are present except Zach Whitman. We need to take a quick look at the agenda and see if we need to make any changes or whether it's ready to adopt.
I move we approve the agenda as submitted.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Need to take a look at the minutes for the April 17th, 2024 meeting, see if we need to make any changes or corrections on those.
Move to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes as submitted. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, we do have a fairly full caseload tonight. As always, I will read each case. We will get comments from staff and answer any questions. The applicant will have a chance to address the Planning Commission. Following that, there will be time for public comment on each case. All right, first case, case number S-03-24-20. Brian Kelly has applied for a by right subdivision of a 21-acre A1 agriculture zoned lot. The subdivision would create 3 new 3-acre lots and a residue lot of 12 acres. The subject lot does not contain a postal address, but is located at the intersection of Leathers Road and Etland Road, and is identified on Madison County's tax map as 14-9A. Anything further from staff?
So at your table today, and on the screen, you'll see an updated plat that was provided by the applicant. Just a couple minor changes. On the plat that you all saw at the workshop, there was a reference to Leathers Lane. That has been updated to show Leathers Road as it should be. And then the VDOT, the latest VDOT entrance approval is indicated in red on the plat here. We did receive, adjoining property owners were notified as required by the Code of Virginia. As you will see included in your packet, we did receive a written comment back, so I would encourage you to make sure you take the time to review that. It was included in your packet. I won't read it for the record since it was included in the packet. But that is all that I have. Based on my review of the zoning ordinance, it does, the proposed lots do meet the minimum lot size. It does meet the minimum lot road frontage. It's a by right subdivision in the A1 zoning district, and so on. No, there's some items, I believe, that may be brought up related to plats. I'll let Mr. Carpenter bring that up during his time. But other than that, I don't have anything further.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or anything for Ms. Loudermilk? Yes.
I have one. You said it met the required road frontage. This lot B, new lot B here, is it, so that road comes around, and how much of that is on the actual road? It just looks like there's a little bit of lot B, kind of on that bottom left side seems to be.
Right, down in that corner where the road swings away from it.
Just, I've been looking at that just because the whole configuration of those lots seem a little odd. But I didn't see anything, specifically in opposition to that.
Yeah, so normally, actually don't see, normally the distance is put on there. And I apologize, I don't see that distance on here for that line.
It does have like the little dots, like it seems like it was specifically measured. There's just not a, well, I guess it's probably L13, right? So there's L12, and there's a space, and then there's L14. It looks like 59.5 feet. But that is an assumption, I guess.
It goes back to the front.
So it looks like that's only got 59, less than 60 feet of actual road frontage before that road curves away from the land right there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was reading the ordinance correctly or not, but it's,
Well, except for the fact that L13 is missing, it seems logical, that's what it is, yeah.
yeah. Just wanted to bring that to attention. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question or comment on this? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Regarding 4-4 water and sewer, 4.1, says each lot shall have, and shall is defined in our code as being mandatory. It shall have one approved drain field area and one approved reserved drain field area. I don't see any reserved drain field areas. I do see that for the residue lot, we've gone from one drain field to 4, which that would support for 4 different lots. Maybe there are plans for the future, I don't want to assume, but I'm wondering if, when we see the letter from the health department, it's rather vague. Do they follow only state mandates and state rules, or do they follow local codes as well? If they follow local codes, why don't we see the required zone, the secondary drain fields, the reserve drain fields? And were soil perk tests done on each of these drain fields by the named engineer? That's unclear. If so, how many tests were done? Presumably one for each of these 4, 5, 6, 7 drain fields plus 7 reserve drain fields, or at least 4 reserve drain fields. And I think that if we would get those perk reports to accompany the soil engineer's report and the health department's report, that would really answer a lot of questions for us.
You can't, Mr. Smith, you can't have a drain field without a reserve area. You have to have a reserve area.
That's right, and the statute says it has to be noted, and it's not.
Mr. Chairman, I guess one of the questions I got is, the topography of this land and the land, the way it has a lot of rocky, steepy slopes on it. And I see 4 more drain fields over here, so I'm assuming that in the future, the residue is gonna be 4 more lots. And then we're gonna have 7 lots along that hillside.
Right, and in C1, Mr. Elliott, that's where, Gibson Hollow Road comes in. It's probably the most handsome rock in all Madison County, other than Old Rag, perhaps. I'd like to see the perk results on that. But my reading, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'd really like to know, it says that we should have noted both a drain field and the reserve drain field. And if they're not on there and they're required, then under our oath of office, I don't know how we could possibly recommend that the board do something that's not in accordance with the law.
I'm not too sure that what we've been seeing all along, I agree with what you're saying, that have, for example, the next one coming up, it's not listed in there as
Same thing.
same thing. And I don't know that we have been seeing that, have we?
Depends on the surveyor that we're using.
Yeah, we have
They're
in the
using-
past, yeah.
So may I just ask a
Yes, sir.
question?
Yes, ma'am,
So
sorry.
for example, on lot A,
Mhm.
the area indicated in green, is that not the reserve area? I know it should be identified, but would that not be the reserve area?
I have no idea.
With that smaller box?
Correct.
I believe that's gonna be the house, the
Is that
residence.
house? Okay.
The smaller box is gonna be the
Is
residence,
that, okay, okay.
or the structure, I should say.
Understood.
And the well's not noted, is it?
There are no wells moved.
Yeah, I think.
Mr. Chairman, maybe we could ask
the.
maybe we could ask the applicant if he has reserve areas on all these drain fields?
That would be appropriate at this point, I think, yes. Is the applicant present? Yes, all right, would you state your name and make sure the mic is on? Okay, I
Hello,
think-
is it on?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so, thank you very much. It's good to be able to discuss this with you. Each one of the drain fields that are reflected on there is 10,000 square feet. And with the soils engineer who had done the samples, that 10,000 square feet covers the main drain field and the reserve. And the cumulative at 10,000 square feet covers both, so that's what each of those boxes reflects.
Okay,
I should
so-
have written in that drain field plus reserve, so I'm sorry about that.
All right, so it's, they're there, it's just not designated that way.
Yeah, that's correct. Each one of those drain fields represents a 10,000 square feet, which is both the drain field plus the reserve.
Can you provide us some guidance about that road frontage on Lot B, where the entrance is located and then the state road curves away from the property?
I don't have the exact number of feet in my head right now, but I would say that 60 to 70 feet is correct. If there was a need to resubmit with more footage, then I could reconfigure the lot to have more footage along levers.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, maybe it's for council. But 4-1 says that the approved drain field area and the approved reserve drain field area shall have a minimum area of 10,000 square feet. Does that mean combined or each shall have 10,000 square feet?
Good question. Let's pull it up.
I can tell you that what I've been used to is that the reserved area is usually 1/3 of the, when you see it, usually the drain field area is 2/3 and the reserve is 1/3. I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Actually, typically.
Yeah, would you, if you're gonna give us some guidance, would you come up and identify, please?
I'm sorry.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
David Lewis, surveyor,
Yes, sir.
I've been here for quite a few years. Typically, the 100 by 100 is the 10,000 square feet. Typically, I've been doing it, everyone else has. If it's all one unit, it's shown as proposed drain field. That includes the primary and what will eventually be reserved if it's needed. Now, if it's in two separate parcels or areas, then you'll get a primary and a reserve drain field. But, which my plat's coming up too, it shows primary drain field, but it includes both portions, primary and reserve.
And Mr. Smith, I mean, the way, just reading it, to me, the way it reads is that the drain field area and the reserve need to be 10,000 square feet, meaning the combination of the two. That's how I read it.
So, could I ask Mr.
Yes.
Lewis a question, and maybe you don't know this, maybe this is for the health department, but the size of the house could make that increase?
Yeah, basically, the 10,000, to the best of my knowledge, is for a 3-bedroom house. Now, if you go to put a 5, 6, 8-bedroom house, then yes, you need to increase the drain field. Now, what size that is, I can't quote. But 10,000 square feet typically gets you a 3-bedroom house,
Thank you.
no matter how many people live in it.
Then you're suggesting our ordinance needs some work?
Convention since 2000 and before, proposed drain field has been fine. You know, if you guys want to request us to put proposed drain field in reserve, I mean, I'll be happy to do it, but it's kind of, and, you know, the reserve is part of the drain field unless it's for soil work, it has to be two separate areas. And to my knowledge, all the surveyors then would show primary drain field, reserve drain field, but it's pretty much 100 by 100 foot square. The top half is the primary, the bottom half is the reserve drain. That's been convention since 2000, well, since before 2000.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Very
No
helpful.
problem.
Yes. All right, any other questions for Mr. Kelly, or?
How about the well? Have you had wells identified?
No.
One of the concerns that I have with that, Mr. Chairman, is you're gonna put 3 wells in there, and sometime down in the future, it looks like there's gonna be 4 more wells. What's the water table like in that area?
Yes, sir.
If I may, in regards to the 4 more, when I got this property, there were 0 drain fields. And I had no idea if in the end there was gonna be 1. And then 1 became 2 when I was talking with my soils engineer, and I just had to keep working. It's those final locations when they ended up getting another drain field. And I said, well, what about that area? And he kept on looking, but what the Kelly family might do 10 plus years from now, those things wouldn't even be valid by then, really. It's just a matter of seeing what the options are in relation to the reserve.
So are these conventional systems or alternative?
Convention.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Yeah, and I think some time ago, we moved to stop requiring the well located beforehand, I think. That was, I can remember we did that a few years back.
What we did was, they didn't have to have a well in place.
Right,
In
right.
order to get their building permit. Didn't mean it, we didn't ask for it to be on the drawings. It was a well, didn't have to
Proposed
be.
well, okay.
It used to be here, you had to drill it
Right.
before you could get your building permit. We
Right.
changed that.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir. Any public comment on this case? Yes, sir. If you would come up and identify yourself.
Good afternoon, my name's Chris Knight, I live across the street there, and I'm just amazed that they can put them 7 lots on the side of that mountain. Have you looked out there? Do you know what we're talking about?
Yeah.
I can't believe it, it's hurt. I mean, do you have the health department's certified hurt report with this? I'm just worried that that whole sensitive area there is gonna be compromised with 7 lots, and it's a beautiful spot. You do have health department approval, correct?
Yeah, that's based on our ordinances, that's what we have, yeah. Okay, any other? Okay, yeah,
Just wanted, just calling the question, I don't know.
yeah, thank you. Public comment, okay.
I'm Scott Ellis. I have a house on Gibson Hollow Lane and a business there, DuCar Vineyards. And I was a little concerned when I heard you say you only got 1 comment. I sent an email to the Board of Supervisors. Did you all get that as well? Okay, I'm sorry, Planning Commission didn't get it, but I think we need some perspective here. If you just looked at that and it was on a plane someplace, flat area, you probably wouldn't care. It's fine, by right, et cetera. This is a massive hunk of billion-year-old granite
Hmm.
that is basically a 45-degree slope. Okay, I went on Google Earth, and as a matter of fact, if you go to that next page that has the contour lines, you were showing it before. Yeah. Those 20-foot lines, 50-foot lines? 40, okay. So the width of that between Etland Road on the top and Leathers Lane to the right, 200 or 300 feet, the elevation is 200 or 300 feet. That's a 45-degree slope. Okay, I have a house in Albemarle. A steep slope there is defined as 15%. Okay, 45%, that is like this. That is higher than the angle of repose, where sand and dirt and snow slide off automatically. It's only stable there because it's a billion-year-old granite with a bunch of trees that have found their way in little cracks to grow there. Disturbing that much soil here would be a nightmare for this area. I can't imagine that any of it perked. All of us that live there have had great trouble even down on the plains in finding areas that perk. That is complete rock, including that beautiful boulder. It's a good example of that, but they're all over the place there. In addition, for the entrance lot that's along Etland Road, on this side of Etland Road, there's about a 10-foot shelf before it even starts going up. So if you're coming from Syria along that way, it's not flat along the road, it's 10 feet on one side. How would you possibly get a car entrance into there? You'd have to take 10 feet of rock out and go back about 100 feet. Then you'd have a little, I don't know, channel in there, and you'd have to separate it out probably for a view, 50 feet on each side. Massive amount of disturbance. I don't think they could get it done with everybody in the county doing it for a year or two. And that's just for one little entrance. The amount of trees that would have to come down, the erosion potential from this. There's no water there. We get big storms off of Old Rag. The only thing that's holding that is that it's rock. You disturb all that soil, all of a sudden you're going to have potentially massive flooding. Take the trees out, the rocks start rolling down. Absolute nightmare. So I can't imagine that we're even here to look at it. Since I heard about this, been driving the county the last few days with this sort of funny eye to look and see if there's any other place like this. I haven't seen any place in the last week driving all around that is anywhere near that kind of level of slope right next to a road. Certainly no houses there. It's just not feasible, not practical, engineering-wise, I think impossible. It's hard for all of us to believe that it perked. I don't know about if you could even get wells there. What are we going to do if this guy builds or starts to build and has to abandon it because he breaks his pick on it all this time and he's cut acres and acres of trees out of that area and just abandons it? It's just a terrible idea. What I've learned on 20 years of having a vineyard, and you guys know this for row crops and you know it for cows and everything else, there's a right place to do stuff and there's the wrong place to do stuff. This is not the right place to build housing. It's been this way for a billion years. There's no demand, no need for it whatsoever. It looks to me like the applicant wants to use one of the lots, the residue, and then flip it into 4 lots later on and sell off the other 3. Nobody's interested in this. It's been available. It's been for sale several times over the last 20 years. Nobody's even looked at it. Just need to leave it alone and move on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment on this case?
Good evening. My name is Jacqueline Suzanne Graves, or as most of you know me, Jackie Sue. My grandfather, Jack Graves, or some of you used to know him as Mr. Jack, used to be chairman on the Board of Supervisors. This property belonged to R.S. Graves Brothers at one time. That's another story in itself, because I'm curious as to whether Mr. Kelly has done a title search on it. I have 13.1025 acres that was surveyed in 2018. by E.J. Burke. I guess I'd have to agree with Scott, and I agree with the McCullough's letter that they sent in also. This is very disturbing to me, because I cannot imagine that my grandfather, if he were living today and chairman of the Board of Supervisors, and he was chairman for 8 years, would be up there and would actually say, go ahead and do it. That's a great idea. It's steep. It's rocky. As Mr. Ellis said, it's very rocky terrain. On my 13 acres, I have a well that was dug by the couple that live next door, because they found it very difficult to get their well, and that area up at Syria Mountain Estates is much more level than this mountain terrain. This is steep, it's rocky. I mean, I looked at it and I could not believe when Mr. Kelly contacted me. I thought, well, maybe he's just putting a house there, you know, where it's a little bit lower or more level. I had no idea that there would be the possibility of 7 houses, 7 wells, 7 drain fields. I just don't see it. And if it perked, we had a very dry summer last summer, and maybe it perked because of that. I don't know enough about perking or any of that. But there is an issue with water. There's going to be an issue with sewage. There's going to be an issue with drainage and erosion from storms. I've been before this board before, and it was with the issue of Syria Mountain Estates. I do not want to open the county up again to more lawsuits or more problems or more people being dissatisfied. And in addition, you're ruining some of the most beautiful part of the country. If I was a tourist and I came to Descartes Vineyards, I would want to sit there, drink my wine, and look at the beautiful countryside. I would not want to look at 7 houses. Now, I know he has the right to do it if it checks, you know, crosses the T's and dots the I's. He can do it. I'm sure he can do it. The question, I think, before the board and for the planning commission is, should he do it? I'm completely against it. I think there are problems with the title search, because with my 13 acres, E.J. Burke has found difficulties. You have to go back to R.S. Grace Brothers Corporation. They dissolved in 2003. There's some question about when the last tax return was filed and whether these records were purged. You have to go back to the officers. You have to go back to their children and their children's children. So everybody has to sign off. I've already been through this with my attorney, and I haven't researched any more because I haven't had the time, because I had to deal with the Syria Mountain Estate issue. We had a lawsuit. My family spent $20,000 on that lawsuit. And then the county, I paid twice because I had to pay the county attorney to represent the county in the lawsuit. I'm completely against it. I mean, you can table it, you can look at some of the other issues, but I just say reject it outright, just plain reject it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment?
My name is Sherry Kirby. I live on Leathers Lane, the very end of Leathers Lane, and I'm not here to talk about Leathers Lane tonight. My husband and I, John, have lived at the end of Leathers Lane for about 12 years. We bought the property because we fell in love with Madison County, with its serenity and its peace and its beauty. And I'm only here to talk about aesthetics more than all the mechanics of what Scotty talked about. I agree with everything that's been said so far. I lived in Fairfax County, I lived in Loudoun County. We moved from both of those places because we wanted to end our careers and our lives in a peaceful, quiet, beautiful setting. And that's why we built our house there. So I just want to say, we saw Fairfax County, we saw Loudoun County kind of go down the tubes with the way they handle things at their county. And we'd hate to see that happen in the future with Madison. So my husband and I discourage you to vote for this proposition. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Other public comment?
I live on Etland Road, and I've been here almost 30 years. And I was here during the flood.
Your name, please, ma'am.
The wash
Your name, please.
from the mountain.
Would you identify yourself?
I'm sorry.
Your name, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Donna Hutchinson.
Thank you.
And I was here during the flood, and all of the debris that came down that mountain on that property is just horrendous. And the rocks, to be able to build something up there would be extremely difficult. I just think it's really a bad decision, and what it will cause the people down on Edlin Road would just be a total disaster. Thank you.
Thank you.
Concerned about your safety being below that?
Okay, I'm sure we'll have some discussion.
Oh, right.
There's that.
It would just be totally unsafe down there, with all of the debris that's going to come down the mountain. It's just a terrible idea. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment on this case? Any other public comment?
My name is Marty Mafola. I live around the project. I watched the recent excitement of the hillside and curiosity. A week or so ago, I received a letter telling me what's going on. I can't describe my response, but I did think about it. And I figured that basically, if we thought about it, we could probably come to the right assessment of what's going on. You've heard some people speak about it. I agree in concept with most of it, maybe all of it. But I think some visual aids would probably help to first identify what the nature of the land is. And Tracy, you received any of this afternoon from the pictures? If we could bring up I'm just getting over the stage fright. You can tell I feel like stiff as the Tin Man as he went through Bob. This is, I was hoping to go to the picture of the ridge. This is the north face of a ridge. Oh, this is the drop off where the one proposed entry site is. That, yes, the VDOT permit tells you what size pipe and what size stone to put in there, and talks about making sure you drain away from the road so the water doesn't come out. But they're not really assessing to kilometer demands here. That's a different piece of, just because the permit's there doesn't mean the feasibility is really being addressed. But can we go back up to the email that had?
Other than the video, that is the only picture that I received, other than the video.
There's one before that had 3 pictures? Okay, anyway, I was hoping, that aside, I'm gonna forget the slideshow. I think it's nice to see pictures, but to see just the ridge, how it stands up, this is a ridge. And anybody that sees it respects it as that. And in the county, there are places to develop, and then there are places that are naturally, and they're not, it's inherent in them that they're not meant to be developed. They're natural conservation areas. Meant to be left alone, they serve a purpose. And trying to come in here and do something like this, where we impose drain fields and in the clearing and boy, this sounds good. Anyway, what's required and what's presented, they do not, well, I'm going to say insufficient reason to believe that this has been actually thought through well enough to be approved. I think there's enough questions and enough stuff to be seen in the Souls work that was done for the drain field, where these slopes exceed what the code says supposed to have where these drain fields are permitted. The amount of soil underneath the drain field, I think Wayne Dixon is going to be 66 inches. I'm not confident that that's going to be found across 10,000 square feet. I'm not confident that most of this, it's, you know, the 45, well, the 50% slope, okay, is about 26 degrees. And out there, we're averaging, it goes up 200 some feet over about 300 feet. So that slope is, if it's perfectly flat, it's going to be in excess of what we're looking for. But the reality is it's going to be more like the slide at the amusement park that goes, it kind of starts off and then it goes quite steep and then it flattens out some. And so that's the reality of what's out there. And I think, just to wrap this up, I respectfully request that the information that needs to be looked at be given a fair chance. If you could table it, get it back to the planning commission to let this information be basically reviewed a little bit better, not rush it. This, as Scott said, this has been here for a long time before we basically make some bad decisions, because it's never good to be pushed by scheduling anything else. And if it's already in the Madison County Comprehensive Plan that basically the Planning Commission is authorized to basically request an environmental study at the expense of the developer when they choose. And so I would say this is, as a natural conservation area, is right there. Looking at it, I wish you could see the pictures. Everybody that's seen the site goes, they're shocked. It's like, the first impression is, you don't do that here. We don't do that here. Just, we could do it. I thought how beautiful it would be to have these little places like, you know, like a cabin in the woods where you can sit on the side of the ridge, because I have that all over my property. I'm up down Leathers Road, I'm up Leathers Road, down Epping Road, down this area in the Bend. I have all these different places that I could do that, but I keep thinking, why would I do that? I mean, the longer I live here, the less I want to do that. When I first moved here, when I was a young guy in my 30s, I was thinking like, oh, cool, I could do all these little places. But I'd ask that basically give it some time and let it resolve itself. But don't break it by pushing it. Take it back a step. Would be the best thing I can say, that give it time to review it and get it worked out for the good of the community, something that respects the environment, that respects the community around it, and everybody involved. And I think that's really in the best interest of all citizens of Madison County and all visitors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Yes, sir. Certainly, yeah.
Great. Thank you, and I respect the comments from everybody in this room. I guess a few things that I just want to put in front of the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission. There's been talk about 7 houses, and as we know, when we read the documentation, this meeting is not about that. It's not being asked for, it's not being requested, it's not being discussed. It's about 3 lots and a residue. And I'm not a soils engineer, but I brought out a soils engineer who went out and did calculations. And I don't represent the Madison Department of Health nor the Virginia Department of Health, but I am a rule follower, and I took great time and care in following all the rules that Madison County and the state of Virginia wanted to be in place for all the right reasons. That the documentation was what was created in relation to the drain fields and submitted. I'm not a roads engineer or a transport engineer, but VDOT has them, which is is why they came to do what was their job, and they signed off on what it was that they did. You know, I understand and I appreciate the letter from Mr. and Mr. McCullough that was sent, that was attached to this. And then one of the comments was about electric, and my plan was to bury the electric. My initial desire was to tap into the transformer that was on their property, because that would have been a lot less expensive, because it was very close to the location, and they said no to that, and I had REC come and ask, and they said no, and you know what, that's their right. They don't have to have a right to do that. So I've worked out alternative accommodations for that, and I'm just trying to work through this subdivision, which has been, I tried to be real transparent about it with a couple meetings with the planning commission and sharing everything that I had, and I'm just trying to do this 3 lots in the residue by right as well. So that's all, and thank you for your consideration.
Okay, any other public comment? Okay, any further question or discussion among the planning commission?
Steve, I got a
Yes.
question. When the soil work was turned into the health department and the health department approved it, do we know, if not, if the health department had the contours on this? Because there is something in the state code, because I had a piece of land one time that I got rid of because of this, that if the slope is so steep, you can't put a drain field on it. And I don't know what that number is right now, but I do know it exists.
It's 45 degrees, I believe, and I'm not a soil engineer, but I believe that's
This is a letter that I submitted. It's part of the Virginia code, and it was given to me by Dwayne Dixon as well, when he was doing a sketch he did to me. And I just happened to walk up to the soil inspector who was parking on property. Is it okay if I speak for a second?
Yeah, come on back. Yeah. Actually, this whole topography question has been a point that we've discussed before too, but yes, please.
It is addressed in the code, and it is roughly 26 degrees. It's a 50% slope. And that, I'm going to say when I look at the cover, possibly, Tracy, can you bring up the approved? I want to say approved because it doesn't say approved, period. It says approved to be constructed in accordance with the Virginia State Code. And then the part I took right out of the code is what I submitted, because I feel that that part has not been given the attention that is really required. And that's why I'd like to see more of that information come back to the planning commission and be scrutinized a little bit more and go out. And likewise the entries, because the entries, when I look at the VDOT permit, we use the word approved, but truly these are just the minimum requirements to check the boxes to get to the, to have your plat evaluated. But the approval is really contingent upon other things. It's only just the first step. It's not the final approval, which only comes from the Board of Supervisors. And the Planning Commission has enough information to basically say that they do not take exception to.
Thank you.
May I just add a comment, if you don't mind?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So I did forward Mr. McCullough's comments to Emily at the health department, who had signed the environmental health approval that is in the packet. She did call me shortly, actually just minutes before 4:30 today, and I asked her verbally. I understand if you want it in writing, happy to get that. But I did ask her verbally, was it in compliance with the section that was referenced, and she did say it was. She said that it did meet that requirement, just so you know.
I'd like to just have to reiterate that we do have a letter from them. You know, I mean, the letter states that's okay. Granted, that's a steep slope. I've been working on the neighbor's property adjacent to Mrs. Graves' place, Jericho Hollow and the Pearson Group, which is behind them. I've been working on that, and I know what the slopes are like over there. And it's some steep slope. Now, my opinion is it's not up to us to say, my only holdback is whether or not the well system, if we're good on the wells, if we're good on that. But hey, if the criteria meets, it's not up to say, hey, it's not gonna be a challenge. I mean, if somebody wants to buy 3 acres from him and they wanna get a challenge and put a house on it, I don't think it's up to us to say, no, that they can't do it.
Yeah, I'm afraid I kind of agree with you on that. That's part of the reason I think that Albemarle has a much more strict set of ordinances regarding the slope. I mean, they just would not have allowed something to be built on this at all.
Well, Steve, I gotta kind of go along with you and Mike. I don't like the way it's drawn out. I don't like the way the lots are chopped up, but we're up here to go along with what the ordinance says. And unfortunately, it meets everything that the ordinance says.
Yeah, no, I don't think it does. If 432, stormwater management says proper approval of the stormwater management plan as required by the Madison County Water Protection Ordinance shall be a condition of approval of every subdivision plat. Do we have a stormwater management plan?
We would not have that yet at this point, no, sir.
So it's a condition precedent to approving a plat.
Where are you reading this from?
4.3, 4-3-2, stormwater management. And you might want to look at 7-5-12, which says supporting data shall include, and this is in the stormwater management too, supporting data for the plat shall include any plans for water supply and sewage disposal, soil erosion, and sedimentation control measures, existing sewer, water mains, culverts, or other underground structures within the tract or parcel of land. Heard a whole lot of talk about soil erosion measures, and I haven't seen anything filed yet with this plat.
Any other comment or?
Yeah, I got one, and I'm not looking for reasons to turn this down. I'm with everybody else, you know, if you've done your work. It's up to the builder or buyer to decide how they use it. There was just a couple things. And with the lot line being weird, I thought I had seen something at some point that said general straight lines and stuff like that, and there is some verbiage in there. Side lot line shall be approximately at right angles. And it goes on, but I mean, I can tell there's been a lot of things that have gone through here, Mr. Smith, and more power to you. Change it, hold them to the feet to the fire. Like, if we're going to say that people need to do it, I have them do it. But there's been a lot of not doing.
Yeah, I think the lot shapes were probably dictated by the topography because it was very hard to find any spaces that they could put drain fields. When we look at, if you can bring the topographical map back up, Tracy. Yeah. Yeah, now you can see, there's lot B probably, there's that relatively rectangular area where it's, the contour lines are fairly far apart. There's another one a little further up that's probably the next lot. To be honest, I'm not sure where he found anything for lot A that's maybe that little corner by the road down there. Otherwise, those contour lines are so close together that, I mean, even I think that's probably one of the, we've been talking about 50% slope, 50-degree slope, 45-degree slope. There's two different kinds of terminology. Is that right, Mike? The angle is one thing, but the percent slope is a different thing. And these, I mean, no matter how you phrase it, most of this is steep. Yeah, our problem is, it's not our job to recommend whether or not he try to build on this. Like Mike said, he's met the requirements. He's fulfilled all the requirements.
I would have to assume at some point if they, and once again, I've been looking for something about the wells. I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
But he's not gonna get a building, somebody, whoever buys the land, won't get a building permit if they don't have a water. So that's gonna be indicated at that point in time.
That's changed, you can now.
Yeah.
You
You can get a building permit
You
without,
can get a building permit without having water.
you're not gonna get a CO then.
Mike,
You're not gonna get a CO, but that's two different things.
Yeah, I mean, we were told pretty plainly, you know, we'll drill 500 feet if we need to. We'll guarantee we'll get you water. So,
But the supporting data must contain
Yeah.
provisions for water supply.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, to your point.
Well, I agree with what you're reading there and what you're saying, Jim. It's just, I've been here a long time, and that's just something that has not been enforced. I'm not saying it's not in there. I can't answer your question there. But normally of the erosion control and all that you're talking about there, once they apply for the building permit, then our erosion control department gets involved in that, and the building department, and that's when all that comes into play. And he can't get a CO for the well unless he has water.
one of the things that amazed me is that this is zoned A1. It looks to me like this is C1, yeah.
All day long.
Yeah.
I do feel like Mr. Cowan had a good point, raising the question about the lot frontage, on that one
On
lot.
the
I do
lot,
want
on
to
the road.
reiterate that. I appreciate you catching that, sir.
What was that again on the lot frontage?
The question about the lot frontage on that one lot, which
Uh-huh.
looks like it's less than 60 feet.
And the requirement is 250 feet.
I believe that goes back to the setback, doesn't it? And that setback starts back, if you read, the setback starts back where the building actually is. So the way I read it was you could have a narrow frontage, but where 50 or 100 feet back, wherever that's gonna be, that's got to be that length. That's the way I'm reading that.
So 4-5 says minimum frontage for permitted uses shall be 250 feet at the setback line.
At the setback line, yeah.
That's the setback line.
So we're assuming that his surveyor met that requirement by knowing where the setback line is. Yeah.
Well, assuming you, I guess the front's gonna be over there on Leathers Road.
No,
Not for lot B.
Not for Lot B, no. Although it does have that little point on there, but he said that's not, that's not considered frontage.
Well, that's what I say, the frontage is gonna be on Leathers Road.
Correct.
And if you look at where the house is, there's plenty of frontage there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, somebody can build on the side of Old Rag if they've got the money to do it. The question is, all right, any other discussion at this point on this? Oh, dear. Ah, yeah. Any further discussion, please? Otherwise, we have to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to deny because the applicant has not fulfilled the requirements of 4-3-2 and 7-5-12.
Okay, motion has been made. Is there a second? Okay. Motion fails for lack of a second. Would that be correct, Hanlon? Yes. All right, can we have any other motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion that case number S-03-24-20 be recommended to the Board of Supervisors for approval based upon, we can't find any reason, in my opinion, not to approve it.
All right, is there a second to the motion?
And Mr. Snyder, if you wanted to, I think the language of that says the approval can be conditioned on the stormwater management plan being approved at some point. If you wanted to make that, it's only a suggestion, it's what you have to do.
Okay. I'll make an addendum to that.
Second, as amended.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded for approval on condition that the stormwater management plan approval be done. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Better show of hands, I guess. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Any opposed? All right, thank you. So we will be recommending case number S-03-24-20 for approval with the condition that the stormwater management plan be approved as well. All right, thank you.
Now,
Nick.
5-1 vote, just for.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, with Mr. Smith voting against, yes. All right, case number SP-05-24-01. The Madison County Board of Supervisors has submitted a site plan application to develop approximately 6 acres of Hoover Ridge Park. Hoover Ridge Park consists of a total of 181.882 acres and is zoned A1. The proposed development provides for a new splash pad, accessible playground, and various sports courts. The applicant has submitted an erosion/sediment control plan and stormwater management plan to the Culpeper Soil and Water Conservation District and the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, respectively. These plans are currently under review and pending approval. The lot is identified on Madison County's tax map as 48-43C. All right, Tracy, anything to add there?
Just 2 minor things. Adjoining property owners were notified as required by the Code of Virginia. I, as staff, did not receive any written comments nor any phone calls. And as far as the stormwater and erosion and sediment plans, they are still under review, so they're still pending. And we did blow up, just instead of printing all of the entire packet, did blow up a site layout plan for you to hopefully be able to see a little bit better. But otherwise, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Any question for Tracy?
Mr. Chairman, I think we've looked at this at enough workshops that we pretty much know what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm, I agree. Any, okay. Do you want to question the applicant any, or shall we?
I don't have any questions to ask. It's
Okay.
pretty cut and dry.
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Yeah, again, this is a case where they've dotted all their i's and crossed all their t's and filled out the checklist and done everything. All right, if there's no questions for the applicant, are there any public comments on this case? Any public comments on this case? All right, if not, any further discussion before?
Just, are we pending, are
Yeah.
DEQ?
Yeah, I'm gonna put that in.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that case number SP-05-24-01 with the approval of the soil erosion control be recommended to the Board of Supervisors for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, unanimous for approval. So we will recommend for approval by the Board of Supervisors, case number SP-05-24-01, assuming the soil and water conservation plans are approved. All right, next case. Case number S-02-24-01. James and Deborah Selvage have applied for a by right subdivision of a 9.7 acre A1 agriculture zoned lot. The subdivision would create 2 new lots and a residue lot. The new lots would be 3 acres and 3.6 acres, and the residue lot would be 3 acres. The subject lot does not contain a postal address, but is located on North Seminole Trail, approximately 450 feet from the intersection with Hebron Valley Road, and is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 40-72. Tracy, anything to add to that?
So late this afternoon, you all received, a slew of emails. I apologize, they came in late. I did, just kind of received them yesterday. But one of them, if you will take a look at, is the most recent plat. Again, we've looked at several of these, so if you will take a look at the one that is labeled received 4/30/24. This is the most up-to-date plat that the applicants are wanting to record. So there's been a bit of confusion / inconsistencies. We could probably use some other words to describe these plats and this situation, but to quickly summarize this, they are wanting to subdivide the 9.70 acre lot. At the Planning Commission workshop, as you know, it was recommended that she file a deed of correction along with a plat prior to this public hearing. That has not been done because there was some confusion on who actually would file the deed of correction. And the deed of correction, the issue with doing a deed of correction is she wouldn't be the one to file the deed of correction. It would actually go back to the previous landowner who would have to file the deed of correction. So fast forward, a long story short, what my suggestion at this point, and she can go into detail, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have related to this, but my suggestion at this point would be to allow her to record this plat with 2 minor edits. One, that the 9.70 acres be revised to say plus or minus. And then the 12.89 acres, it does already say plus or minus, so that's good. And then include the tax map numbers, which are missing from this plat. So the 9.70 would become 40-72, and then the 12.89 would become 40-74. And that would be my recommendation for the first stage of this. And then in doing that, you all could review and actually consider the subdivision request of the 9.70 acre lot. I don't think I have to rehash all of the inconsistencies of the plats that you all have seen. There's been numerous versions. Quickly, I will just bring to your attention, thanks to Mr. Wright, there is a section in our county code that says that once from the date of the public hearing, the Planning Commission has 60 days to act on a plat. And so my recommendation to you all would be to with those two minor edits that I just discussed would be to allow her to record the plat with those edits and then let her come back, not make a decision tonight, and then actually, review the proposed subdivision.
Okay. Any question for Tracy?
What happens to the 2.6 acres?
That, so once that is recorded, it will be assigned a new tax map number. And that would be considered a non-conforming lot.
And she
what
wants to
we
keep it that way
recommended-
in the non-conforming lot then? She wants to keep it that way?
She does. Now, what we recommended, is that she consider doing a boundary line adjustment and adding, a half acre to that to make it a conforming lot. That is a recommendation. We'd have to consult with her to see if she's willing to do that. We talked about that at the last workshop meeting, so I'll let you address that with her.
Okay, any other question? All
Just
right.
one comment to add on
Mhm.
what Tracy said, which is, for this, for everybody, this salvage is, you've got the 2022 deed that calls it, I think, 10.6 acres, 10.65 acres, that was recorded. The meets and bounds description that's in a deed is really the thing legally that controls. So I know that you want to record just that, which is going to say it's 9.7 acres, but you're going to have about a 1 acre disparity between what that says and what that written description is from 2022. And I understand that deed of correction may not be feasible. There might be another way to skin that cat. There might be a corrective affidavit you could do and record there. I'm just trying to avoid problems down the road for whoever it is that ends up owning that. And just so that everybody knows also what exactly is being divided and how. So that's all I got.
Okay, any other question for Tracy?
So she's wanting to record the 9.7 acres or the whole entire plat?
She is wanting to record the plat dated received 4/30/24 with the two edits that I mentioned that she doesn't know about till right now.
I do have one question, Tracy. Do we have the road management agreement?
I've got it for review. She has submitted it.
So it's not ready now?
But she
Okay.
gave it to me about, I think, 2 or 3 days ago.
Mhm.
So
And I need information off the recording plat in order to complete it. It's
All right.
complete up until all the information that I currently have.
Yeah, Jim, did you have a?
I do.
Yes.
If we do this, Tracy, then is she gonna get caught into the 4 and 10 on the boundary line adjustment to correct the non-conforming lot?
I mean, so that is, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. The two, as it sits, the 2.6 acres is a grandfathered lot. So somewhere between, there is documentation, recorded documentation, that shows that it was a 3.17 acre lot before the state took a portion of it,
Mhm.
which then made it a 2.60 acre lot. Somewhere between 1944 and possibly 1949, possibly, it was consolidated with this 9.70 tract. We cannot find records to support that. So we don't know if it was consolidated or it was not. It appears that it was, but there's no documentation to back it up. So because there is a recorded plat showing that it's a separate lot, even though doesn't have a tax map number and all of that, it's a non-conforming lot. And I think it would be, in my opinion, a good faith effort on her end if she would add the portion of to the land to make it a conforming lot. Again, in my opinion, she's not required to do that. It would be a good faith effort in doing that if she would do that. And then I don't think if she would do that, I don't think it should affect her 4 and 10 on this 12.89 residue. Because again, it's a good faith effort. She shouldn't really be required to do that, in my opinion. That's just me though.
Okay, thank you. Any other question for Tracy? All right, would the applicant like to address us? I know you've been at this for a while.
And Ms. Selvich, while you're walking up there, is your surveyor present? Yes. So also, if you have questions for the surveyor, now would be a good time as well.
Actually, I think at the workshop, even though he was on the telephone, he was very helpful that night. Okay, if you would identify yourself and brace yourself, yeah.
My name is Debbie Selvich. I am trying to subdivide the 9.73 acre parcel that is laid out correctly according to land records on this map. I don't know what else you guys want from me. I have been working and talking to people and sending emails and getting the runaround since we met last. I am communicating with people at least 3 times a day, at least. My title company, Tracy, bless her heart, I feel for her because we threw her into the fire before she ever even got here good. She's been dealing with me, she's been talking to me on a regular basis. She's been very receptive, she's been very easy to communicate with. That's the only person I can say that I can talk to freely. I don't know what anyone wants from me. I brought my surveyor because that was requested. Christopher, I know. Christopher is more than happy to answer any questions you all have, I guess, as far as the survey goes. 9.75 acres is recorded, it's in the deed, it's been brought forward from the previous owners to my deed. It shows that it's 9.73 acres. Always has. Problem is, Madison County somehow, somewhere along the line, had it laid out in a manner that the 9.73 acres bordered Route 29, which is incorrect, and it's definitely incorrect, because if it was correct, then VDOT would have taken a portion of that 9.73 acres when they took property from the other parcels on either side. So we know, I mean, there's nothing showing that it's the way Madison has it in their tax map records. That's all I have.
Okay. Does anyone have a question for Ms. Selvich?
I don't have a question, but I've got a comment. I don't know anywhere where it really says that after a subdivision that you can't do a boundary line adjustment before 10 years. You can't do a division again until 10 years, but I don't know that you can't do a boundary line adjustment.
Because as it stands right now, a boundary line adjustment is not a subdivision.
Correct. So to the point earlier, if she does a subdivision now, she ought to be able to go ahead and do a boundary line adjustment to do the non-conforming lot, if she wanted to do that.
And I have been verbally told to the contrary to that. I have been told through a Madison County employee that it does count as a division. But if you guys are all on the same page, I'm all for it.
No, a boundary line adjustment does not counts as a
I think, Mr.
division.
Chairman, in order to make this a real simple thing, she takes a little bit of property from here, puts it right there in a boundary adjustment. She's got a conforming lot, and it's all good.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that's, in the future, that doesn't apply to what we're looking at right now. I realize that you've been working on this for a while, and although the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors does have this 60-day time period we have to work with, you don't. So, in view of the fact that we do not have this new plat formally recorded yet, which was one of the things we'd asked, and also since we do not have the road management agreement completed yet, I think it would be to your advantage to simply ask us to table it right now. That doesn't mean you give up. You're just saying, we need to get these two things done, you're going to table it, and it's at your request, if it's tabled, that does not imply rejection or recommendation either way.
So you're saying to me that we would not have to do the deed of correction? Because that's what held me up from getting this recorded. And my question is, same as it was
Well,
last time,
I,
what am I correcting? And I cannot get an answer to that, and if I can't get an answer to that, I can't get a deed of correction done, and if I can't get a deed of correction done, I was told in email, in writing, the deed of correction has to be filed with the survey. I'm sitting here waiting. Mr. Baker had this ready. It's been sitting here in my hands, ready to be filed, but I don't have a deed of correction, because I can't get any information on what this deed of correction is supposed to be correcting. I went back to my title company from 2 years ago. She looked at it. I gave her my suggestions, my thoughts, my ideas. She asked me to have Mr. Wright contact her so she could talk to him and find out what it was that he wanted corrected. That didn't happen. If you guys just want me to file the survey, I can file the survey. That's not the problem. Once the survey is filed, then I can finish the road maintenance agreement. I am chasing my tail.
we understand, yes. What is simply preventing her from filing the one that we saw that was dated on the last day of the month here? Wherever that was.
So I'm
Yeah.
looking at,
On 4/30/24.
this is salvages.
With the two modifications that were recommended by Tracy.
So the deed that is recorded, this is 7 July of 2022,
Mhm.
calls tax map parcel 40-72. Legally described it as 10.65 acres.
Okay, so there's an acreage discrepancy, and that's what requires the correction? I mean, I'm way out of my depth here, what we're talking about. They apparently don't want to accept any kind of a deed of correction? Is that what she's saying?
So I'm not an attorney for Ms. Selvage.
Mhm.
I'm not going to give her any kind of legal advice.
Right.
The advice has been, you should hire an attorney because you've got some difficulties here in terms of what belongs to what, in terms of the acreage. And then you're going to try and sell this to other people. You know, are they going to have a bunch of issues down the road with what acreage are they actually buying? What land are they actually buying? Is that description correct? That calls that tax map 40-72, 10.65 acres, or is it 9.7 acres? Or, and again, we've had a lot of different versions of it. It's not just that it's been these two.
Mhm.
There's been several different descriptions of what this land is. I'm just saying, there's an issue here.
Yeah, basically, this was the issue we were asking to be addressed in asking you to file this. What we're trying to do is to get something recorded that matches the subdivision request.
I'm gonna muddy the water a little bit more.
Can't hurt.
That can really happen. I don't think, and I don't know where or how this could be, but I've got tax map 4072
Mhm.
and tax map 4074.
Mhm.
4072, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused now too. 9 acres, 9.73 acres, and the 3.17 acres totaled 12 acres. That's 4074, not 4072, 4074. And if you look at my deed, it's 4074 that we're talking about, not the 10.65 acres. It's a 12 acres. And that's the 9.73 and the 3.17. The other lot, the county had reported as a 10.65 acres, which miraculously turned into 13 acres, and I have the documentation for that as well. When I purchased it, it was 10.65 the beginning of the month that I purchased it, because again, I was doing my homework. And then I purchased it, and I got a letter saying that it had been changed within the county records, and it is now 13 acres. So I think we're getting the parcels confused, personally.
And just for, again, I hate to muddy the water more. If you will, include it at your table tonight and also an email, if you will look at the email from Brian Daniel. I did ask permission to share this before, but the reason that changed was based on an email, request that he had received from the salvage. And that documentation is included in the packet.
So,
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that. Tracy, what was the last bit of that?
So there was an email that you had sent to Brian Daniel on May the 26th of 22. I guess when you had first acquired the property. It says you all have it listed as 10.65 acres and is being sold as 13.47. If the total of the three equal, and then you did the math, it equals 13.478. And then that's why he changed it to the 13.478.
So with no documentation, they changed it, but I can't.
You're talking about two different things. One is tax collection, the other is what's actually recorded in the clerk's office. And then when you sold 40-73, that included the little non-conforming lot as being part of 40-74. As a tax part. That was in Squatterbox recent they have not ever been consolidated, or no records can be found consolidated. Sure, I mean, that's certainly not reflected on that.
so generally speaking, if you were to do what Mrs. Clatterbuck had said, put the plus or minus in there, what, from a surveyor's standpoint of view, what does a plus and a minus, what kind of acres does that normally account for?
9.7 has been field certified as incorrect.
I'm just asking in general. In general, if you put a plus or minus in there, how much acres does that usually give you a wiggle room for? A half acre, a third acre?
The 30 acres that's still taxed as of previous Wyndham exchange carpenter, that's in the lower southern portion of that property, the 50-foot wide right-of-way serves, is held as 30 acres, plus or minus.
Plus or minus.
So if somebody surveyed it today, maybe they find 35, maybe they find 25.
So it could be a big amount. If plus or minus could be a big amount.
Double or half.
Well,
Who's bet?
I think our point still remains the same here, though. And again, we can't give you advice, but I'm suggesting we had two things that we were worried about, basically. We're still trying to get a plat that matches, a recorded plat that matches the subdivision application. And then the other thing is the road maintenance fee, which, as you point out, is just a matter of pro forma, basically. But, you know, if we were to vote right now tonight, those things are not complete. And so, personally, I would feel that I would have to vote not to recommend. On the other hand, you do have your option, which we don't have, of asking for more time.
I would be more than happy to say table it if I can get a very straight, concise description of what you guys want me to do before I come back in here again. Do I need to file? Do I need to go to the previous owners? What do I need to do? I cannot file a deed of correction because I don't know what needs to be corrected.
Unfortunately, I think what Mr. Wright has said is, we have two concerns, and we've tried to give you some suggestion of how to deal with them.
And I appreciate that.
You know, we cannot give any legal advice. Mr. Wright cannot give legal advice to you. Okay, he's not your attorney.
We can make that decision at this particular point, and the decision behind us might change anyway.
That's true.
So,
Well, actually, maybe not, because we're not supposed to accept the application that's not complete. And it's not complete unless we have the road maintenance agreement, so.
I guess we need to table it.
That would be, you know, personally, if I were you, that's what I would do, yeah. That gives you time for you to deal with the situation. And as far as, you know, we really can't recommend things either. We can tell you what we would like to see, which was a recorded plat that ends up agreeing with the subdivision plat that we were looking at. Right now, I mean, it doesn't agree with the acreage even, so. And one of the things that Ms. Clatterbrook did say, I'm pretty sure that in the subdivision ordinances regarding a plat, you need to have on the plat that you record the tax map numbers. And this one, I believe she said you needed to put that on there.
if we table it, I can't remember, does it still go to the board?
No, no.
No. Okay, so, I mean, unless there's some other discussion.
No, we can disapprove it, and then it'll still go to the board, and they can make a decision.
We can.
We can't
recommend-
table it unless she asks us to.
Right, that's her prerogative, not ours, yeah.
I don't see that I have a choice, honestly.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that case number S-02-24-01 be tabled.
All right, can we deal with it that way, since she's asked for it?
You
Okay.
say in accordance with the,
In
Stated
accordance with
desire
the
of the
request of the applicant. Okay. All right, motion's been made and seconded to table this at the request of the applicant. Any further discussion? All right, should we, I guess a roll call vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and good luck. We're not trying to be obstructive, we just. Yes, sir.
I have a question for the commission, please.
You can make a comment, it's not, we don't answer the questions, but
That's fine.
you can make it, go to the microphone.
There was a comment made
If
that
you would have
My name is David Blankenbecker.
Mhm.
I am a land surveyor. We prepared this plat. There was a comment made that, a question, I believe, was asked, that if this was tabled, would it go on tonight, continue on tonight? To the gentleman sitting behind you. And that's my question. Will it be heard tonight? Or is the table affecting that there will be no further consideration tonight?
Well, there's no approval from the planning commission, so it would not be considered by the board.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I didn't ask for a public comment, I guess I should have on this, but. So, case number S-02-24-01, at the request of the applicant, has been tabled, and that has been approved by the planning commission. Case number S-02-24-02, Pearl and Lily Builders LLC have applied for a by right subdivision of a 10.9 acre A1 agriculture zoned lot. The subdivision would create 2 new lots and the residue lot. The new lots would be 3.7 acres and 4.2 acres, and the residue lot would be 3 acres. The residue lot contains an existing dwelling addressed as 3563 Orange Road, Arota, Virginia, and is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 57-115A. Tracy, anything to add there?
The only thing that we were waiting on from the workshop that has changed with this one was the road maintenance agreement, and that has been included in your packet. And then, of course, adjoining property owners were notified, and staff did not receive any written comments or any phone calls regarding this. And I don't have anything further.
Okay. Any questions for Tracy? And again, that 50-foot right-of-way serving the 2 new parcels was extended to join the second entrance there on the residue parcel. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Any questions for Tracy on this? Okay. Is the applicant here? Yes, sir. Would you like to?
Stand in.
Well, yeah. All right. Any questions for the applicant or his stand-in?
Number one, whatever your vote is it rude if I leave immediately thereafter? Does that adversely affect our chances in any way, shape, or form?
The board will take it up later, but that's up to you.
I just don't want to be rude, but it's way past my bedtime. 2, may I go first next time?
Yes, sir.
That's my whole case. I think it's kind of like y'all said, I think it's by right. Hopefully we're in accordance with what we need to be.
Okay, we do need your name for.
Justin Pearl,
Okay, thank you.
comedian.
All right, does anyone have questions for Mr. Pearl? Any questions at all? Okay, again, I think this one's been through a couple of workshops, and any problems that showed up have been dealt with, and it's pretty straightforward, I think.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So I remember when this first came to us, many moons ago, what was the question about the drain field or the well, or what, did that get resolved? Do you have some well issue, or some drain field issues?
I believe it was like a lot of things. They rushed where the lines are. Well, then it just looks like you crammed a bunch of stuff in there, and of course, I don't think that's very appealing for anyone, so I think we went back to the drawing board and straightened it up.
Because I believe you were applying to get all that redone, if I remember right.
The survey and the soil work got redone to where it just makes sense. You can barely read it before, is how.
But I mean, there was actual, not just paperwork, that was actual work
And there's
being
no
done,
fault
correct?
but ours, again, trying to
Yeah.
rush the soil guys.
Did that get done?
Right, it's all squared away and proper now. Like you said, they're nice squared off lots with the 10,000 square feet drain field.
Well, that was on the first lot, right?
Yeah, we've got well sites proposed, house sites, drain field sites.
Because it says proposed drain fields 5 feet from property lines and easements. Is that the new, or is that the old?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, the existing house is on that residue, though, so.
So where is the new drain fields? Because there's nothing on there that shows that.
Oh, on that survey right
Down here on the bottom.
there, right there. No, not on that lot. The lot where the existing house is.
Yeah, is that small area, is that the existing drain field?
That's a proposed new drain field.
Oh, okay, I think that's what you were asking then, yeah.
I guess so it would have a reserve or whatever, even though it has a drain field.
All right, so that is what the caption up there, proposed drain fields 5 feet from property lines and easement lines, that's what that's referring to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other question?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that case number S-02-24-02 be recommended to the Board of Supervisors for approval. Second.
Yeah, we still need public comment.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes, sir.
I didn't hear if you did. Did you ask for public comment on this one?
We haven't yet, that's,
Oh.
yeah, that's what we were just mentioning. All right, thank you, sir. Any public comment on this case? Do we have any public comment on this case? Okay, any further discussion? All right, if not, can we have a motion?
Still my motion stands.
Okay. Motion has been made to approve case number S-02-24-02. Is there a second? Second has been made. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So case number S-02-24-02 will be recommended for approval by the Board of Supervisors. Case number S-04-17-01, John Stanley Dawson III et al. Applied for a by right subdivision of a 66.789 acre lot, A1 agriculture zoned lot. The subdivision would create 2 new lots and a residue lot. The 2 new lots would be 22.263 acres each, and the residue lot would be 22.263 acres. The residue lot contains an existing dwelling addressed as 6611 South Blue Ridge Turnpike, Rochelle, Virginia, 22738. Identified on Madison County's tax maps as 56-7. There is a correction noted here that the applicant says that the existing dwelling is on one of the new lots rather than on the residue lot. All right, any further comment, Tracy?
Just one minor but important update. The application was submitted to the Virginia Department of Health for health review as far as septic. As of today, they have received the application. We do not have health approval yet. I spoke with Emily yesterday. She is planning to review the material and go on site next week. So we do not have health approval. So my recommendation to you all would be, you have 2 options. You could do a conditional approvement, or you could table the application.
Okay, any questions for Tracy? Okay. Would the applicant like to address the planning commission? All right. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Any public comment? Any public comment? Okay. Any
I
further
got
discussion?
a question,
Yes.
Steve. On Lot X, there's another proposed drain field down kind of right there on the property line. Is there, I forget, what are the setbacks for the drain field?
5 feet, isn't it?
I mean, the drain field, as long as it's 5 feet, so you can get it back and put it and maintain and operate it. There's no setback for the drain field other than it has to be the 5 feet.
Do we have the VDH on this?
No, it hadn't been
Not,
approved
not,
yet.
not done yet, okay. So they don't have they have received the soil engineer's work? I'm just asking as well, is there a particular reason why a well wasn't identified?
You want me to go up? My specialty is the location of things, David Lewis again. If it's supposed to be the soil scientist's job to do 4 corners for a drain field, 1 corner for the house, and 1 corner for the well. If they don't do that, I don't locate it. Now typically, I send my drawing to whichever soil scientist, and when he submits his paperwork to the health department, he'll sketch a well on that to make sure it meets the setbacks and the 100 feet and all that. Unfortunately, a lot of times, there isn't a stake for me to locate. If there's a stake out there and I know about it, I'll locate it.
So was it not asked for during the soil analysis, or?
Very few soil guys will actually set the 4 drain field corners, 1 house corner, and the well. It's just, to my knowledge, it's actually a requirement, but from my experience of over 20-some years, they don't do it. But again, it's hard for them to make sure there's 100, when you're in, say, steep vegetation or brush, it's hard for them to make sure it's 100 feet from the house when, when it's a piece of paper on your desk, it's easy to make sure it's 100 feet, so. But again, we're getting caught in what's standard practice and convention and what the rules, in an ideal world, I'd love to have all those stakes out when I go locate it, because it's not I'm not, my specialty is location, not dirt, not wells, not houses, just explanation.
And apparently there wasn't one where the existing house is. I mean, that wasn't identified. I'm sure there is a well, but it wasn't identified.
There was an old well up in the house. I worked on that farm as a kid, so, yeah, many times at that old house, I had dinner and drank water, so yes, there was a well there. Now, I think it's either under concrete foundation or part of the house or something like that. But again, I can't locate what I don't see, But I guarantee you there's a well there. I drank from it in the 70s.
It's still a well there. My name is Mike Butters. I'm the real estate broker assisting the Dawson family. I do have the health department for the soil work that was submitted, and it does have a well site located on that. So,
On all the properties, or just the?
well, it's I
Just
have
where
the
the-
residue up now, but I can go through all of them and confirm that they're all there. All right? Do you not have the packet?
All we get from the Department of Health is a approval letter, basically.
Okay.
So, and they depend apparently on the soil scientist's work.
So you've got something that shows that there is one, but that wasn't forwarded to Mrs. Clatterbuck?
I have a site sketch with the proposed septic and well.
Yeah. So that's what,
If I may, he's got the site sketch from the
Soil
soil guy.
engineer.
Right.
Like I said, typically, I send them my drawing and he adds and makes whatever changes necessary, and health department approves it.
yeah, so what you've got is basically what was sent to the health department.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any other discussion on this? Any public comment? All right, so basically, we've got, and this particular case kind of almost fell through the cracks because we've only really seen it in one workshop. But the application was made some time ago. And we do not have the VDH approval, so what are our choices? I guess we can table or recommend pending, or based on.
I would move that case number S-04-17-01 be recommended to the Board of Supervisors for approval pending VDH approval.
Second.
All right, motion has been made and seconded for approval pending VDH approval. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we will recommend to the Board of Supervisors case number S-04-17-01 for approval pending Virginia Department of Health approval. Okay, are there any other items from the Planning Commission or the public? Okay, just for future reference, on the upcoming Planning Commission workshop, there are several items that we will be continuing with. We will continue looking at the amendment that we've been looking at for changing the minimum off-street parking, specifically for medical offices. Also, the amendment concerning the definitions for automobile graveyard, and the amendment concerning boundary line adjustments and associated reconciliations with the existing ordinances. Okay, Mr. Smith has shown me something that he noticed that we will probably need to add to our next workshop as well. Apparently, there's a statute in the Virginia Code that requires that local governments update and amend their ordinances and regulations to incorporate updated requirements in Part 4. And this is related to, what is this related to? 9 VA.
Yeah, it's soil and water and.
Okay, so soil and water conservation, okay. So something that we will need to be looking at. This is apparently has to be done by September 29th, 2024. So, Tracy, we might get you to add that to our next workshop agenda as well. At least start looking at that and see what it involves. Okay, second thing, and we've been noticing some situations where we need to be looking at the Planning Commission bylaws. Several things need to be updated in those, I think. Mr. Wright has identified a couple of those. And review of Appendix 2, Article 7-1, filing requirements. Okay, any other things that we need to be looking at for upcoming workshop items?
Yeah, I think that what we found out tonight, we need to somehow get the word out of what our ordinances require and have the soil guys make sure that they submit the proper information that's to the health department so we can have our applications complete.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and I wasn't ready to turn this gentleman down and start tonight at a public hearing on forcing things that have sort of slid along, but I think it's probably starts with our new.
Yeah, let her be the bad guy.
Yeah, you know, sort of direct people correctly. And I mean, I was just really curious why this Parks and Rec application was probably the best looking application I've seen ever. With checklists that had things checked off of it, and the accompanying documentation was submitted. And it was just bizarre to me that we would, usually the county should get a little skate by, right, with everything? And, you know, it was just checklists and things that I hadn't seen before, organized in a very concise manner. I mean, we've seen a couple come through that are really good, but why, you know, like the Woodbury Forest or the Oak Grove Mennonite Church, you know, has had applications, and it's easy for everybody. It's easier for them, for us, for the public to ask any questions, for people to discern what's happening. You know, seems like
It was a good thing, yes.
good stuff. Something better could happen.
Yeah.
I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
When is the comp plan due?
Let's see, we have been developing a schedule for that, I think, oh dear. Jonathan, can you help me out?
I'll be
June?
giving the board a schedule on that. We're getting ready to finalize. I will tell you, the draft timeline at this time where it's planning to come for this body, the planning commission, is for the June and July workshops. And then after your review and so forth, it goes to the board of supervisors from there. But I plan on, if I have the hard timeline from draft to final, I'm going to give it to the board on the 14th and notify the planning commission.
Yeah.
The reason I ask, Mr. Chairman, is it takes a long time to go through that.
Yeah.
A lot of meetings.
Yeah, and the consultant, Ms. Little, is, actually right now, she's preparing the, I guess you would say, almost final draft, so that we'll have something. And I'm going to ask that they make it available for us online so that we can start looking at it ahead of time. I don't think that would be any problem. Okay, any other question or discussion?
One last item on the point on the checklist for.
Mhm.
You know who signed that? Mr. Weekly.
Well, I think the point is well taken. The utilization of checklists is relatively new, and it's a good thing. Yes. Okay, any other comment or discussion? If not, can I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I didn't think so. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Jim. We're gonna have to start reading some of this stuff. Yeah.
You guys hanging or stepping down?
Y'all gonna stick around, or?
You gonna step down or you hanging?
You're gonna step down, okay. You're gonna sit in the uncomfortable seats instead of comfortable seats.
All right, I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors portion of the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything you need to add to the agenda this evening? What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. As always, general public comment. General public comment. Anybody have any general public comment? Gonna do this multiple more times. All right. Case number S-03-24-20. Brian Kelly has applied for a by right subdivision of a 21-acre A1 agricultural zone lot. The subdivision would create 3 new 3-acre lots and residue lot of 12 acres.
The subject lot does not contain a postal address, but is located at the intersection of Leathers Road and Evelyn Road, and is identified as Madison County Tax Map as 14-9A. Ms. Clatterbuck, anything to add?
Nothing new that you haven't already heard.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions for Ms. Clatterbuck? We will go to the applicant, but I see he has left. All right, I guess that passes over the questions for the applicant. Let's go to public comment. Public comment. Is there any public comment on this? All right, back to the board. What's everybody have to say?
Well, Mr. Chairman, in my nearly 14 years of being involved with the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors and reviewing these kind of cases, I don't think I've ever seen a more inappropriate place for subdivision and possible development than this. But our hands are kind of tied here. I don't agree with VDOT at all on this, as Mr. Ellett pointed out. Getting driveways in off of Etland Road is going to be about as bad as getting driveways down into it on Leathers Road. But I spent time the last couple days. I contacted Dwayne Dixon, and I contacted Emily, and with Mr. McCullough's thing, which he brought up about being able to put drain fields on slopes, and they are, as Tracy has already pointed out, they are within their limits, although I just find this incredible. If anybody was to build a house up there and spend any time on that hill, one leg's gonna grow longer than the other because it's that daggone steep. I just don't get it. And I don't know that, even if we approve this thing, whether there'll be a fool out there that buys these lots. I'm looking at our comprehensive plan right now under slopes. It's on page 7. And it says slopes in Madison County can generally be grouped into 3 categories. Slopes of less than 15% are intrinsically best suited for most development, whether agricultural or urban. Slopes in 15 to 25% range will support low-density residential development with careful attention to erosion problems. Slopes greater than 25% are best suited to passive recreation or permanent woodland cover in order to avoid severe erosion problems. Now, our comprehensive plan, unfortunately, since we're working on it, does not prohibit this. It's just, these are suggestions. This slope is greater than 25%. I did get that today, too. So I'm really disappointed that I will probably have to support this subdivision, but that's what I'm faced with.
Other comments? Please.
First of all, apologize for my voice. I have a couple of issues with this proposal. One is that, as Mr. Smith cited, there's 2 sections in the code that really haven't been addressed with this, and I know that we let stuff slide and we shouldn't, and that's no justification for moving on forward and not requiring things to be done, the I's to be dotted and the T's to be crossed, particularly in this situation where the limits of slope and other factors are really being pushed to the boundaries. I would not be able to support this now until this additional information was or requirements were complied with, and then we could review it. So at this point in time, given the current status of this, I couldn't vote to support it. I think it's incomplete. Thank you.
Other comments?
You asked if I had a question for Tracy. I do
has the road frontage, has that been addressed and fixed? Because we discussed that maybe it was like 60 feet with the setback.
Isn't the setback line defined on the drawing that you can see all the way around the property? It's the second line within, and on the lot B coming off of Leathers Road, it certainly would appear that it's got at least 250 there. Isn't that right, or am I way off, Tracy?
I'm a little concerned about that now, frankly, just based on the definition. I don't have an answer for you.
The setback line is on there.
It is on
The
there.
250, I agree, that, without being out there with the tape measure, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
It does appear like it does have distance at that setback line, not just at the, on the road. Mr. Weekly?
That's the Graves
Yeah.
Just past the entrance, yeah.
I'm sorry, so everybody knows what I'm looking at the drawing, so L14, that's one of the points listed on the chart. That's showing a distance of 761 feet.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the setback line.
But is that,
Is that their road frontage?
Nathan asked the question about where's L13. Just asking the question. We're assuming it's that piece that's on Leathers Road. But assume it normally bites me in the rear end.
In my opinion, just since it's been brought up, the points that are not defined,
Uh-huh.
that's the lot frontage to me. And I would say that's not 250 feet. Because all the way down to L14, that borders the Graves property. If we were talking about road frontage all along L14, there would be no question. But that's not road frontage all the way down L14, and that would be my concern.
Other questions or comments? I do have some comments about this one. The road frontage thing, the road frontage at the setback with the recommendation of the planning director of probably not being 250 does change my vote a little bit, but this is a personal property rights issue. Mr. Smith brought up the stormwater management plan. We had 3 other subdivisions right in front of us. No comment about that at all. Every one of them, same exact thing. The Hoover Ridge Park, that is a site plan. Looking at the code that was stated on the 4 whatever it was, it's a condition of it. Of course it's a condition of it with development. This is a personal property rights issue. If he complies and he does have the 250 feet, then this is a by right subdivision. We have VDH approval, we have VDOT approval. I've been on that property very recently for bad conditions. I'm sure Mr. Elliff saw it. It was very clear. At night you can see the fires. It's steep, it's miserable, it's rocky. Whether it perks or not, that's the soil scientist and his stamp to go on the papers. But this is a personal property rights issue. Anybody in here that would own any piece of property would want the same rights honored to them. Mr. McCullough said that he thought it was a natural, I'll take a bunch of notes, natural conservatory area. I agree with you. My grandfather always said these parts, that kind of land is holding the world together. It doesn't have a whole lot of redeeming value. But somebody owns it, and somebody has rights that go with it. Should it be A1? Probably not. It should be C1. It appears that when zoning came around, people just kind of put whatever the heck they felt like it on there. The property's been for sale for a long time. Anybody could have purchased that property and made it a natural conservatory area. This is what everybody that owns land would want to be able to do. Whether they choose to leave it as one lot, pass it on to family, whatever. There are rights associated with it. The 250 does give me apprehension. And if it isn't 250 and it is by the code, and that's what it says, then I can't vote for it without the 250. Mr. Kelly said that he would adjust the lines. If it does not, that's his right to do. That's where I stand on this one.
I got one more.
Please.
All right, so I just ran across this. Jonathan, could you bring up 7-5-12? Or you got it, Tracy? 7-5-12. Out of the subdivision order, it's talking about supporting data shall include, this shall include any plans for water supply and sewage disposal, then soil erosion and sedimentation control measures, existing sewers, water mains, culverts, and other underground structures within the tract or parcel of land. So then that, to me, is suggesting, and he goes and sits with our soil and erosion and sedimentation people and get that straight. So that, I think, should be done.
If it's in there, every applicant needs to be doing this exact same thing. Because we voted on, the planning commission recommended 2 other ones tonight. Has to be for everybody. What do y'all want to do? Yeah, public comment, excuse me. Mr. Lewis, please. I apologize.
Sorry, I hope I don't hate myself for this.
I think we did do public comment, but go ahead, yes, go ahead, please, by all means.
Please bring up the definition of the setback line for the front right of way. And all I'm gonna say is y'all need to reevaluate that in this case. Secondly, you gotta keep in mind, we cut off lots from perfectly flat ground, which all you need to do is put a silt fence around it. And there are many lots in Madison County, I personally, after seeing what happened in the flood thing, shouldn't be built on. I'm not gonna put a horse in that, but, there's a difference between, if you're telling Harry homeowner who's building on a 3-acre flat lot in Malvern, he has to do engineered site plan, soil sediment control. You just added 15, 20 grand to the cost of his house. That was unnecessary because water's gonna go downhill, no matter what the paper says. Now, when you start building at extreme, that's an issue y'all probably need to address in the future. But I would feel better if you read the setback requirements and evaluate that, and I don't want to say too much.
Thank you. Yes, sir, come on up. By all means, yes, sir.
Can I comment also?
Oh, by all means.
I recognize what you're grappling with. I was a little surprised during the planning commission meeting to have several people saying, in fact, well, we haven't done it before, so why do we do it now? 3 of you so far, 3 out of 3 have said, these are requirements. So if we're gonna do it and start now. Now, maybe there's some exceptions for flat land in Malvern where it's sort of pretty obvious. But the reason you have, I assume, those things in the code is so that you can make sure that it's in the public interest and that we don't have erosion and sediment issues and all the other things that are listed in that section and every other section. So if you got it there, use it. Start it tonight.
Thank you. Other public comment? Please.
My name is Nathan Cowan. I represent Community with Malvern. There's some seriously steep land in Malvern. Rock face is, I mean, as steep as that easily. It's Madison County, we're in the foothills. I wouldn't try to muddy the waters here with this 4.5. To me, if something's at the end of a road, where's the road frontage on that? You're the last house on the road, right? I kept reading it, the setback line, 250 feet, lot width, I don't think it has to do with the width.
The setback is 100 feet from the center of the road, and the right of way is less than 50 feet.
Yep.
All right.
4-4-1.
Other public comment? Yes, sir, Mr. McCool. Yes, sir.
We saw a couple other maps up here from Dawson. You know, I applaud the detail that they did. They showed the contours right on the drain field. I don't think that they were severe as challenging as sites were facing, but if we could at least have that level of detail in thinking that goes into we'll have a better product, a better project, and that's all that we're really asking is what came through was a little bit oversimplified for the challenges that are presented here. And to take it a step further, the first thing on the zoning and building official webpage, under the documents that we rely on, is the comprehensive plan. The first goal in the comprehensive plan I have in front of me, which is to preserve, protect, enhance the natural beauty and rural character of Madison County, as in keeping the rural and agricultural use. And under implementing that strategy, point 7, if I can read it to you, is to continue the current policy of authorizing the planning commission and the board of supervisors to require developers to finance and assist in the preparation of studies of the impact of proposed developments on the county, its residents, and its environment. And, you know, I can see that you can scale this back and not really push it all the time, but when you're pushing the limits, I think it's a little short-sighted to say, well, we didn't require this guy to do it, so why did we require it? It's about discernment. It's about judgment. And that's what we're all here about, to use our best judgment, but we need a chance to do it. Produce a drawing, have Mr. Kelly produce a document that details the entries out with contours, so we can see the slopes, because that's a big factor here, as well as at the drain field. I really liked what I saw there, and so we're not asking for anything special, just to maybe what the other applicants do. And I really implore the board of supervisors to respectfully just, if you could, push it back to the planning commission for just a little bit more improved site plan.
Mr. Elliott, please.
Mr. Jackson, at the setback line, where the setback line is in front of the house, there's 250 feet there. That's a setback line in front of the house. That's what's required, is the 250 feet in front of the house, that's a setback line, not out at the road.
Thank you. Other public comment? Other public comment? Anybody else? All right, back to the board. Mr. Wright, you agree with Mr. Elliott on the assertion of the setback?
Well, I think the bigger, I'm gonna answer your question with a question.
Please.
Which is, if the board doesn't think it has all the information it needs, or if it doesn't think that it's a completed application, can the board table it?
Sure we can.
And ask for more information? The answer is yes. It's 60 days from tonight for the board to take action on this. So if the board wants more time, more information, we can do that. I think there's limits to how much information we can ask of applicant, but I think we're within our rights in terms of asking on these particular questions and the requirements of what we have for our application.
All right. Tracy, do you think you could get more information from Mr. Kelly? on this?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna say what nobody wants to hear. Nobody wants to hear. I've seen this a couple times where people, neighbors don't like a new development. Mr. Kelly comes back and he gets all these topo lines and shows us where the wells are and stormwater management stuff and all kind of stuff. I'm skeptical whether or not it's going to change y'all's opinions. I'm sorry to just call it just like it is, but that is the reality of this. We all live in a beautiful place in Madison County, and we hate to see it change by anybody. But things change. It's just part of life. We also approved not glamping, short-term rental site around the hill where the man was going to put up mirrored cube houses on decks. He's cleared a bunch of land. It's not as steep as this land is, but he's moving right along with that. And they had drain field and well sites and all that stuff as well.
I got one more quick
Please.
thing.
Yes, sir.
So what my hope is, if he goes down and talks to Joe and them at the building office about the soil erosion and sedimentation control, he's gonna say, whoa, I really, it's not worth doing. That's
Absolutely.
That's what I'm hoping. When he finds out what soil and erosion is gonna require, what DEQ is gonna require, and all that stuff, I mean,
100%.
that's, I'll hang.
Agreed.
So.
What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple more comments.
Please.
First of all, if we table this, which I'm in favor of, how specific do we need to be with regard to what information we're going to require that the applicant provide? I assume that has to be in compliance with the code. Am I correct? Okay. If he fulfills all the requirements, then it just becomes a by right issue. But I think for due diligence purposes, given that this is extremely sloping property, that we really need to clarify some things. That's my opinion.
Yes, sir.
And I would even move to table pending the additional information.
I'll second that.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? What are we asking for?
That's what I was gonna
That's-
ask. Let me ask Ms.
I mean,
Clyburn,
good
do
Lord.
we know what,
I mean, we see on, like, and I'm gonna call them out because they've got, like, the Wyland property. There's stormwater or not the Wyland property, but the entrance to the Wyland property that has Madison Plaza. That was a development that has a stormwater retention pond. We just saw one that goes to the storage units. That's a very encompassing plan, and I'd guess Mr. Lewis is probably right on the money on, and maybe cheap, for commercial side on 15 to 20K. For somebody that's doing it as a residential NA1, what would you ask for from Mr. Kelly?
Incorrectly on behalf of Joe, but if they were sold as individual lots, stormwater does not come into play unless more than an acre is disturbed. And I would want to confirm that with Joe. That's my experience from my previous employer. I would want to make sure erosion and sediment comes into play if he disturbs more than 10,000 square feet.
Yes, ma'am.
But stormwater is more than an acre.
What-
Again, I want to confirm.
What about, it was brought up previously about the topo lines on the drain fields and some of those lines on the maps. Would that be something that we could get clarity on?
I think that's something we can request of the surveyor, that they should,
What else?
frankly,
What
they
else
should
are
already
there?
have that information.
Yeah, clarification of the setback, absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Weekly, you have other specifics that you would recommend us to acquire on this?
I'm looking to see what's in the notes, as far as elevations, note 5, it says elevations shown hereon are based on an assumed datum, contours, intervals at a 4 foot, but I don't see the, normally as shown on our GIS, contours are there, it's just like a legend, 1 inch equals so many feet. They're stated in the notes, but I do not see it as shown on the plat layout, so probably fair to say more description on the contours.
There you
It is, I looked at this when I drove around, actually, I think it was day 1 or day 2. I said, Tracy, let's see what's going to be on the agenda. Let's drive around. Usually you find topos of this in C1. C1 has a section you'll see that mentions slopes and elevations. A1 does not. This is A1. That's why it's here before you, and I think many of you commented that, it's by right in A1 by meeting criteria, but definitely contours. The stream and drainage, I think we need to go back and look at that. I think that was 4-3 or 4-5 and see if that's more geared floodplain or so forth. I'm not aware of any streams on this property. To Tracy's point, if they do individual lots that'll be in lieu of plan, that's allowed. It's generally, I think, $1,000 bond, usually just silt fence unless there's something crazy going on, at which Joe would,
Yes,
require other things.
absolutely.
Probably there would be a PE involved. So definitely, I just wanted to make sure I stopped for a minute to ensure that staff
Oh, absolutely.
got a summary of the things that we're going to ask them for.
Oh, it's clarity to us
Yeah.
too. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Jonathan, it does say streams and drainage at the top of 4-3, and certainly looks like to me is a drainage, probably a drainage issue.
Yeah, I think what we'll
Yeah.
do is,
So-
we've got folks that Joe normally sends and gets comments on, whether it's an official DEQ review, definitely Soil and Water Conservation District, of folks that are part of our resource network, so we certainly, from a staff side, can get that. The contours would help fall in line to, there's computations, again, there's a difference between food line parking lot and all these lots feeding into one common stormwater pond, but certainly, we'll ask some of our folks in the network, including Culpeper Water and Soil Conservation District, to provide some comment.
Thank you.
But if I may, Ms.
Yeah.
Clatterbuck, do we feel like we have a good list? I think contours and,
Do you want to see well location, proposed well location?
Oh, yeah, put that on there. Why not? Yeah, sure. All right, anybody else got anything? Yeah.
I'd like,
Oh, yeah, absolutely, we do. But we do have to act within 60 days. That is part of it. Anybody, Ms. Clatterbuck, you need anything else?
what was the clarity on the setback? I agree with
The
Mr.
250.
Elliott, but that's my
No,
opinion.
let's,
but
if we're tabling.
You want it shown
Yeah,
on?
well, yeah, put some
Okay.
dots on there and some distances.
Okay,
Um,
gotcha.
Anybody else have anything? All right, there's motion on the floor. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. Case number SP-05-24-01, the Madison County Board of Supervisors has submitted a site plan application to develop approximately 6 acres of Hoover Ridge Park. Hoover Ridge Park consists of a total of 181.882 acres and is zoned A1. The proposed development provides for a new splash pad, accessibility playground, and various sport courts. The applicant has submitted an erosion sediment control plan and stormwater management plan to Culpeper Soil and Water Conservation Districts and Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, respectively. These plans are currently under a review and pending approval. The lot is identified as Madison County Tax Map 48-43C. Anything to add, or anything to add, Ms. Clatterbuck? Any questions for Ms. Clatterbuck? To the applicant? Anything to add? Where can people donate for this project? And is it tax deductible? Yes. Because it's a 501c3? Yes. That's the way to be.
give local Piedmont coming up.
Anything else to add? Any questions for the applicant?
No, sir.
To the public? To the public? Are you raising your hand? Oh, zero. We're solid. Online participation's up. All right, back to the board. What would you all like to do?
And Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number SP-05-24-01 as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Second.
Oh, let me add to that, contingent upon the receipt of the erosion sediment control plan and stormwater management plan to the Culpeper Soil and Water Conservation District and the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all. Case number case number S-02-24-02, Pearl and Lily Builders LLC has applied for a by right subdivision of 10.9 acres, A1 zone lot. The subdivision would create 2 new lots in residue. The new lot would be 3.7 acres and 4.2 acres, and a residue lot would be 3 acres. The residue lot contains an existing dwelling as 3563 Orange Road, Arota, Virginia, and as it is identified on the Madison County tax map as 57-115A. Ms. Clatterbuck?
I have nothing to add.
All right. Anything from the applicant?
He had to leave.
Yeah, there you go. To the public. To the public. Still at 0. Back to the board. What would you all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number S-02-24-01 for approval.
I second. 02, it is.
02.
Right, Dustin?
Forgive me. Yes, sir.
You amend your second?
Second.
That's a, yep. All right, motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Case number S-04-17-01, John Stanley Dawson III et al. Applied for a by right subdivision of 66.789 acres, lot zoned A1. The subdivision would create 2 new lots and a residue lot. The 2 new lots would be 22.263 acres each, and the residue lot would be 22.263 acres. The residue lot contains an existing dwelling addressed as 6611 South Blue Ridge Turnpike, Rochelle, Virginia 22738, and is identified on Madison County's tax map as 56-7. There is a correction that the staff would like to note that the existing dwelling is proposed to be located on one of the new lots instead of the residue. Ms. Clatterbuck, anything?
Nothing new.
Any questions for Ms. Clatterbuck? All right, to the applicant. Anything to add?
When's the next meeting? No.
If this is done, we're done. So no, nothing to add. Say no.
We meet in 2 weeks. We'll be glad to have you. You can join us online. You'll be the only one. Any questions for the applicants? To the public. To the public. Anybody? All right, back to the board. What would y'all like to do?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number S-04-17-01 with the condition that we get Health Department approval.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. We don't have any information or correspondence. We're back to public comment. Anybody have any public comment? Yes, sir. Mr. Elliott.
If we're gonna start enforcing the thing with the erosion control or whatever, I think that needs to be added to our checklist and not wait till somebody comes in here and say, hey, you gotta do this.
Agreed. Agreed.
I'd go further too, Mr. Elliott. I think we need to make some tweaks to that ordinance.
Agreed.
It's less than 25% slope, then just the existing site plan, but if it's greater than that, then you have to do the extra study.
Something
I
like
think
that.
makes sense.
I agree.
Yep.
Agree. Y'all hear that? Mr. Elliott pointed out that we should do something on the checklist pertaining to the stormwater management. And then Mr. Jewett stated that anything, like as an idea, anything over a 25% grade should have additional conditions placed on it potentially. Is that something y'all would look into?
Yeah, certainly we can do that in my comment, and apologize, I was just making it, Tracy, is I want to go back and thoroughly review a lot of the storm, just making sure that we don't have something different on mind and actually is written, because a lot of those things will get you more into a combined storm system. But yes, we will definitely take both of those and bring it back. I think since it's been raised at this meeting, both bodies should hear that response.
Absolutely. All right. No public comment. We don't have a closed session. What would y'all like to do?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.